People keep saying that Star Wars is fine, even if it's in decline. A box office bust, a flop on the way, that's okay. It'll just keep going and going. But what if we told you that on the heels of The Mandalorian and Grogu failing in cinemas, being reviled and exited by fans, it turns out the fallout has begun. And it's with none other than Ahsoka. Season 2, the budget's being slashed. It's a great day. It's a groovy day. Happy weekend, ladies and gentlemen. We'll count a Friday, won't you? They do when it comes to the box office, that's for sure. Click that like button, smash that subscribe, and if you see the hype, the time is always ripe for hype. But there's no hype with Ahsoka. There's no hype with Star Wars. It's in decline, and they're racing to cut the budgets. Ladies and gentlemen, there is Star Wars fallout about after the collapse of The Mandalorian and Grogu at the box office. What are we talking about? We're talking about Ahsoka now being announced as having its budget slashed. We go to Collider to find out the story. It says Star Wars finally fixes its biggest Disney Plus problem with its next spin-off series. Michael Hein, the writer here, says over the last 2 decades, Star Wars fans have been watching Ahsoka Tano learn to balance her emotions and her mastery of the Force. Now she is poised to balance the franchise's biggest problem. Andre, did you know the biggest problem for Star Wars is not, in fact, the sequel trilogy? It's not the fans being angry. Andre, the biggest problem Star Wars has is its budget.
Yeah. Well, the beauty with the biggest franchise or the biggest problem with franchise is that it changes depending on whatever the article the establishment media is writing this week needs it to be. So it's very fluid, this big problem. I have one question, though. This is the first time I hear of the story. Is this like soft announced, as in it got way through, like we learned of it from some inside source or from physical paper, or hard announced, as in they put out a press release saying we are now cutting the budgets? Like I would imagine that this is something that's either behind the scene leaks or some financial papers or something like that.
Right.
Like,
definitely not Disney coming out with a press release. They would not do so. They don't admit defeat. But
no, not announced then. Yeah.
Let's all read together. It says Ahsoka Season 2 reportedly cost Disney significantly less to film than other recent Star Wars projects, which could hint at a more sustainable future for the galaxy far, far away. Disney Plus has done its best to capitalize on Star Wars and other big media properties. The cost of all that CGI is definitely adding up. Hopefully, Ahsoka Season 2 can lead the way to more modest budgets with the same storytelling fans have come to hope for. This article goes on to talk about the reason that if Ahsoka performs poorly is, well, it's okay because it's not going to cost them any money. Apparently, this is a frugal series on Disney Plus. Jonas, there's just one problem, even as they're now preaching and screeching to us that, hey, we're not spending any money. Mando was cheap. This is cheap. Star Wars is cheap. Jonas, it can't be cheap. And the reason is, we believe they're going into reshoots for Ahsoka. That's the latest, is they've got a significant delay, like a 6-month delay. And Hayden Christensen apparently is getting more screen time with this and maybe another project. So at the same time, they're telling us, Jonas, that, no, don't worry about the dollar sign. Star Wars can function as a smaller franchise. It doesn't look that way from the other side.
It's just so odd to me because the words that are being used to describe Star Wars, whether it's by Variety or what this is probably something that has been leaked to Collider, and Collider is glad to print whatever Lucasfilm sends them. The word efficient was used to describe Mandalorian and Grogu in the reviews. Now, it's obviously not the same kind of conversation, but who doesn't love a good efficient movie? With Ahsoka, for them to talk about the budgets and that being an issue, and I remember being on Midnight's Edge the morning after the episode where Ahsoka was doing backflips in space while dodging
in space
a starfighter. This is the kind of thing that works fine in animation, which is probably the appropriate amount of budget for a Dave Filoni Star Wars project. However much they would pay the Korean animators to make it. When things like this come out, and it's not the first time something like this has come out, this is a framing that I think only would appeal to Wall Street. Because if you say the budget is being raised, okay, that communicates to the fans that you have more that you want to do. When you say the budget is lower than it's ever been, That's a very different kind of messaging to get out there. I also remember with Loki season 2, there was an expose, not an expose, but there was a feature done in Variety where whoever the producer was on that scene, they wanted it out there that Loki season 2 was the lowest budgeted and lowest production cost MCU series to date at that point. Who is the benefit of that message? And it's only shareholders at that point.
Can I add one thing to that real quick?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
It's because the ones who ultimately do benefit, of course, the shareholders, they are the intended recipients of the message, but they're not the beneficiaries, not really. The ones who are the beneficiaries are the executives who aren't fired by the shareholders. That's why this stuff is being put out there. It's to put out the flames and the murmurs that they know the shareholders surely must be feeling.
I hadn't thought about that. The self-preservation that's probably going on there at
self-preservation.
Well, what if I told you guys, in terms of self-preservation, Andre, I think you're exactly right. And that's because I smell a rat. I smell a mouse, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you're going to smell it too. Pay attention closely, because when the media begins to say the same thing, well, you all know what's happening, right?
Talking points.
So we're just after the first weekend of Mando. We're going in the second weekend of Mando, where we may see it fall to number 2. In fact, I don't see any other way than it falling to number 2, and badly. So the talking point that Disney's putting out days after we find out Mandalorian is dazed and confused and dropping at the box office. Let's read the title one more time for Collider. Folks, I know you remember it, but for the journalists out there, the drive-bys who have the memory of a goldfish, this is for you as you get ready to write your articles. Star Wars finally fixes its biggest Disney Plus problem with its next spinoff series. Jonas, can you remember that for me from Collider?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is that it's boring, but I'll go with the budget one too.
Okay, here we go. Geek Tyrant. 2 hours ago.
Whoa.
Ahsoka season 2 might fix one of Lucasfilm's big Star Wars budget problem.
I'm reminded of Al Gore having such gravitas back in the 90s.
I also want to congratulate them on the grammar here. Ahsoka season 2 might fix one of Lucasfilm's big Star Wars budget problem. It's a good effort. Okay. We just got to say kudos on the effort. Maybe not so great on the execution. All right. Jonas, can you remember that title for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Comicbook.com. Chris Agar. Ahsoka season 2 officially fixes one major Star Wars problem. I'm starting to see a pattern here, boys.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern.
And no one is going with a different angle. You know, when websites cover a story from another website, generally they're trying to come with a new perspective, so there's added value for the audience, maybe some analysis. But when it's the exact same headline, you might as well just read the first article. That's cool. That's creepy. That's like our democracy is in danger kind of rhetoric.
Hey, all I can say is, I'm feeling pretty good about myself about figuring this thing out. I think the talking point is there. I think they want people to hear that Mando is cheap. Ahsoka is cheap. It's not costing them anything. And by the way, we know the budget essentially for Ahsoka. We pretty much know this. Ahsoka season won $100 million for the full eight episodes. That's pretty darn cheap. $12 million per episode, thereabouts. If they're really going to drop it down, even with reshoots, is it 90 million? Is it 96 million? And we're 3-4 years removed from the first season. So the idea that you managed to beat the inflation sounds to me like Disney is cutting Filoni deep down to the marrow and saying, Lucasfilm, we're not wasting this money anymore. That's the way I read it, and I think they want people to know that. I think they're trying to change the narrative now. Like, Andre, it's fine when they're trying to save it, but when they're ready to pull the ripcord, maybe the goal here is to say, hey, we need to get this narrative out now that things are not great. So how do we do that? How do we forecast that things are going to change so that our shills aren't left out, frozen in the tundra of, the narrative changed and we didn't know it?
I think I have a slightly different take on it.
Please.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from, and fundamentally it's the same thing, but really what I think they're doing here is that they are sending, first off, they're going to have private meetings with their really, really big shareholders, right? And what are they going to tell them? They're going to say, fine, things are bad. But she's gone. Now we adults, we're back in control of the room. We have this sorted. We are taking the necessary steps. Everything is under control. It's going to take a few years before things turn around, but it's all under control. You just watch in the media and what it says. And what then does all the media say? They just solved one of their biggest problems, the spending.
Right.
See there? It's control narrative. This is something that's been put out there for the benefit of not just your random small shareholders, but the really, really big ones, so that they go online and they have it fed right back to them. Okay, fine. They have it under control. All the papers are saying it, that they just solved one of their biggest problems. Please don't look any further. And with some of these financial types, they don't understand the details of the franchise or anything like that. All they see is, okay, fine. It's not too expensive. The franchise is in a repair mode right now. We know this. They've acknowledged this. And here is now they're cutting budgets and spending. This is a sign of having control, which goes back to this is about self-preservation. This is about buying themselves more time. This is about projecting confidence to shareholders, letting them know that, yeah, this is repair mode. Things weren't great. Can't change that. We can move forward. We can cut costs. We are in control. That's the message here.
I think you're exactly right. I think prescient as always. This is why people need to go subscribe and tune in to Midnight's Edge. Folks, if you've left the show at any point, the return is now. Do so. Jonas, I'll give you the final word, though, on this. And I find it interesting that they apparently are bringing in Christian Haydenson. They're going to Hayden Christensen. I'm sorry. Hayden Christensen.
I can tell you why they do that.
Right, and they're going to get Vader Darth. Vader Darth is on the way back too. Yeah. Folks, you get that joke in a minute. It's not funny at all. Andre, you said you know why they're doing that.
Yeah, well, to me, it's obvious. I mean, they're saying, yeah, we're going back to the core. This is what people always responded to. This whole sequel era, the Kathleen Kennedy, was all a mistake. Now we're going back and look, we just gave Hayden Christensen this massive contract. We're now even changing Ahsoka season 2 to give him a bigger role. And I'm sure they did that. I am sure that they have changed what was the original plan. They had to do that in the aftermath of Ray Stevenson dying, even though they recast him. But now they know what's going on. They know what worked and what didn't. Dave Filoni, of course, he was very big part of the problem, but he's still there. He can now try to pretend it was all Kathleen Kennedy and claim to be part of the fix when he was part of the problem. Hey, that's the Hollywood way now, isn't it?
That's the way.
And then, this is the way. And then they're trying to fix it, and then it just remains to be seen if it's going to work out for them. But at least they're trying. And that is what they're signaling to everyone. We are in control. That's the message. And I guarantee you, all of the financial types, all of the shareholders that actually matter, the ones that could fire the new male CEO, get rid of him and get Dana Walden in instead, get rid of D'Amato, I mean, and if he doesn't deliver, then this is what's going on. This is a projection of strength and confidence. Now, it could all be bullshit, but hey, that's what they're trying to project.
Yep.
That's what this is about. This is not admitting we made a mistake. No, it's saying they made a mistake. The previous people, they messed up.
Right.
We're here now, and we're fixing it.
And there's very few people at the Disney company that are capable of making a public statement that is just clearly in that direction. Bob Iger essentially did that with Bob Chapek. And he had the political clout to do that. There's no one at the company right now that can say something like that boldly and openly.
This is the closest thing you are going to get, because to most people who either are not directly or indirectly connected to the board meetings, or that do not have experience reading fiscal papers and stuff like that, they're not going to see what it actually says. But this is a projection of confidence.
Totally agree, Andre. I think you're on the money. It's just too bad Lucasfilm is trying to find some way to get more money and cut it at the same time. This is not where they thought they would be, but boy, after that first weekend for Mando, how low can it go? Into Hercule levels for Lucasfilm. And yet again, folks, we have come to the end. But what a video it has been, and we hope you agree. Folks, if you had a good time with us, consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. We care about your thoughts. Folks, we also want to invite you to partake in thatparkplace.com. Of course, www. You get the idea. Thatparkplace.com. It is the website telling the truth, and it is a rising star across the web for pop culture news coverage and analysis. Go over there and bookmark it today. Folks, we're bookmarking you as a great guest that we appreciate. Until the next time we have the honor of spending time with you, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, folks, you better believe it, keep having fun.